Hello. We have a number of serious public health problems in the United States today, probably none more serious than overweight. In this program, we'll be talking about how to lose weight, and we hope you'll join us. We think you'll learn some things that will be very helpful.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of Uchee Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
It may be that you have struggled with your weight. I have. I think that by the time I was 15 years old, I remember weighing about 170 pounds. From then, for about the next 20 years, I guess, I had as a major problem that of thinking about my weight, hoping that it wouldn't get any higher, wondering why I couldn't be just like other girls who were so skinny. They were so slender, and I was a little on the hefty side. And although I was 5 feet 10, I still was what you might call hefty. And some said I carried my weight very well. But in subsequent years, I realized that my weight at that time was quite a great deal more than was healthful. So if you have this kind of thought, and you want to get some tips on how you can best lose weight, several of us have some special experience along those lines, and we'd like to share that with you. I have asked Rhonda Clark, who is one of my colleagues at Uchee Pines, to join me. And Rhonda, do you know something about weight control?
I do. I have struggled with my weight a good bit of my life.
So you are as I am. You have personal experience in how to lose weight.
Yes, how to gain weight and how to lose weight.
Very good. Tell us what you can that will be helpful.
Okay, I'd be happy to. And I'd like to begin by just sharing a little of my personal experience with weight. I came to Uchee Pines looking for information on how to more effectively manage my weight. I didn't have a weight problem so much as a young person, but as a young adult gained a great deal of weight. And when I learned of the principles of good health that are promoted by Uchee Pines in our program here, I felt that those may be the very thing I had been looking for to finally be successful. And I want to share with you the things that I have found for myself to be beneficial. I brought a couple of pictures with me, and these are a little embarrassing, Dr. Thrash, to share. But I do want people to see.
We'll recognize that these are in the past.
Yes. These pictures come from several months ago. I'm working in a greenhouse at Uchee Pines. This was when I first arrived on campus. And you can see, I hope, a little difference in how I appear today. Now, clearly, I still have some weight to lose. But at this time, I was almost 100 pounds heavier than I am now. And I'm so grateful to be able to share with you some of the principles that have helped me overcome so far on my journey that amount of weight, and which I feel very confident will help me achieve a full success.
Certainly, it's as some people are fond of saying, to try to succeed is better. You may fail, but not to try is to ensure that you're going to fail.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
And you know, those who try the most are going to be the most likely to succeed. You've got to hang in there. And I tell myself that as well. I feel when it comes to weight loss, there are two key principles. And these have to do with the physiology of the body and helping our body help us lose weight and achieve a normal weight. Key number one has to do with optimizing the insulin function in our body. Key number two is to help ensure that our digestive process is very efficient. And let me tell you why. With insulin, insulin's job in our body is to take the glucose that comes to our bloodstream from the foods that we have eaten and put it in places where it's supposed to go to help us have energy, give us fuel. It will put it into the cells to be used immediately for fuel, or in certain cells in the body, it is able to store glucose in long chains called glycogen. This is a short-term storage for glucose, and it's right there ready for us if there's no immediate glucose to be burned. It's what we use while we sleep at night or if we're involved in endurance sports. A third place that insulin can put any excess blood glucose into our body is storage as fat. Now, one thing that is very important for an overweight person to know is that you want to help the insulin put as much of that glucose into your cells where it can be burned off rather than storing it as fat. And you know, Dr. Thrash, there are ways that we can tell how our body is doing in the storage of these things and where it's sending.
When insulin is making you store it as fat as compared to using it directly as a source of energy, or putting it into glycogen, which can be stored for a little delayed use, but not for permanent storage like fat?
Yes, indeed. And one of the things that can help you, the more fit you are, the more likely the glucose that comes from the foods you eat will go right to the cells to be burned for fuel or right into glycogen storage. In fact, the more fit we become, our body makes more and more opportunity for glycogen storage, and that is something that doesn't add to our weight, and it gives us more energy when we're exercising, especially for long-term exercise. We come to the person then who is overweight, and if they have had a diet that's high in refined foods, have been very sedentary, eaten high-fat foods, the cells become resistant to the action of insulin. And now when the insulin tries to put the glucose into the cell, the number of receptors that are there to allow that process to occur are fewer, or just clogged up, not able to work effectively. We need to make some changes in our diet and exercise patterns to help prevent insulin resistance and make the cells very receptive to glucose and glycogen. And we do this through some very simple means. A plant-based, very simple diet is one of the best first steps. Not only is a diet that's plant-based lower in calories, it's rich in fiber, and it gives feelings of fullness that can last for longer periods of time, help you eat less. You can fill up much faster on a couple of potatoes than you can on a bag of potato chips, for example. Another thing that I know you promote a lot on the program here, Dr. Thrash, and that is exercise.
Oh yes, I feel that exercise will cover a lot of ills in another place. But now you just now said that a couple of potatoes will give you more satisfaction than a bag of potato chips. What if it were a big bag of potato chips? Is it the same?
You might eventually feel full, but think of all the additional salt and fat that you have taken in.
Actually, a potato is not addicting in itself, but you take that first potato chip and it is almost impossible not to take the second.
Yes.
If you're addicted. Now with a potato, you have the potato on your plate and you don't have anything but salt on it. Tastes good. You love the taste of the potato, and just the salt, or maybe a little bit of soy mayonnaise or some other, maybe some sour soy cream. Have that on the potato, and you can eat a potato and stop.
Yes.
But you can't eat a potato chip and stop.
We both know that, don't
Yes.
we? Indeed, you can have a delightful diet that's very satisfying and yet simple, and that will help keep your insulin working very efficiently. Exercise, a crucial part to reducing the resistance of insulin in your body. As you exercise, the message is sent. Our cells need more glucose, and so they build this process into place that reinforces using the glucose for fuel and storage as glycogen. Another thing that's really important is to have an adequate water intake. The centers in our brain that control thirst and hunger are very near to each other in proximity, and often those signals can become confused. In addition, water is really important for the effective use of insulin taking the glucose into the cells. So make sure you're drinking at least 8 to 10 glasses of pure fresh water every day. It's important to get regular sleep. An early bedtime and at least 7 hours of sleep a night, not exceeding 9, is important for a very efficient carbohydrate metabolism and efficiency in insulin function. So these are some tips on insulin function.
Yes.
And
we know that insulin is also an extremely good appetite stimulant. In fact, it's the very best appetite stimulant known to man. So if we need to stimulate the appetite of a person artificially, we may give a little insulin, not much, but just a little, so that the person who is really struggling to eat, to have an appetite, it can help to give them an appetite. So the person who is overweight, they have a high insulin level because they're trying to keep the sugar level down. The body is trying to keep the sugar level down. So it does that by high insulin level. As the insulin goes up, it makes the person hungry. So they eat their meal, insulin goes up, 2 hours later, they could eat again. Sometimes it's 20 minutes after they have just finished eating, they're hungry again. When that kind of thing happens, the person should know that they are indeed struggling with insulin and not with hunger.
Yes. And what can become a vicious cycle there is that as the person becomes insulin resistant, more and more insulin is secreted into the body.
Yes.
And in its effort to keep the blood glucose level normal, it will store more and more as fat. It reaches the point where a person with insulin resistance could eat the same meal as someone without insulin resistance and store a much greater portion of that as fat rather than having that be used as fuel. So you can see why this step is so important. The other step that I mentioned in weight loss is to help make your digestion just as efficient as possible. Well, what does that have to do with weight? If we are not having an efficient digestion, we won't be fully absorbing the nutrients that are in our foods. We also can be creating an inflammatory state in the digestive system. And both of these very readily contribute to food cravings, and those are difficult to overcome, as you know, if you struggle with weight at all. So some guidelines in helping to make a very efficient digestion are, again, simplicity. Simplicity in your diet, avoiding rich foods, very stimulating spices, things that are salty, sugary, avoiding all of the refined food products. Then it comes to very simple things too. Things like chewing your food well. Saliva is your friend when it comes to digestion.
Yes.
The digestion of carbohydrates begins in our mouth.
Right.
And so it's
and
important.
Also, as you spend time chewing, the stomach fills with gastric juices, which gives one a better sense of satiety than if they just eat fast. Then the insulin level goes up. They could again eat right away. In fact, they often do. And again, they eat fast, and the insulin level goes up, and shortly they can eat again. So it is this thing that makes people who are traveling, every time they pass a place where they could eat, if they can possibly eat, they pull in and get something to eat if they don't have something already in the car.
Yeah. You know, another important thing about really mixing our food well with saliva and making sure we have efficient digestion is not to take liquids with our meals. Liquids dilute things. We often will swallow food that has not been mixed well with saliva if we're taking liquids with our meals. It also dilutes the gastric juices that have been secreted and prepared, and foods can pass on into the bowels with really incomplete digestion, creating that inflammatory state that we discussed. Another important thing is to, one thing that's helpful for digestion is to take a gentle walk after meals. This is something to help keep the action of the digestive system stimulated, not a vigorous walk that would suppress the digestive system, but something gentle just to help get things moving, so to speak. And, you know, I'm sure in your experience you know many other things that are important for us and helpful for us.
Yes, I do. There are a lot of things, but I appreciate these things that you have mentioned. And you spoke about, I think you spoke about a 2-meal plan.
I have not yet, but
okay, I've heard you speak about a 2-meal plan. Would you elaborate on that a bit?
Yes, I would. Both for improving insulin efficiency and efficiency of digestion, a 2-meal plan is really helpful. This is something that I have personally adopted and will continue for the rest of my life. I have found it to be very helpful for me. It helped me get over some gastric reflux problems that I had, helped me sleep a lot better at night.
But don't you go around hungry all the time, especially after lunch?
I don't, and I have learned that if you have a very nourishing breakfast and lunch with good whole foods, rich in fiber, you won't be hungry for your third meal.
That's been my experience as well, Rhonda. I think I have had maybe 10 in the last 30 years. I've had maybe 10 nights when I have really felt I would love to have a supper. But the rest of the time, sometimes I feel faintly hungry, but most of the time I don't feel hungry at all. I can leave the dinner table, which is middle of the day, not evening, and go all the way through the rest of the day and the night and wake up the next morning really interested in breakfast. And then I eat a very nourishing breakfast, and I'm very satisfied with that. What about such things as irritants for the stomach?
There are many that are very commonly taken in the American diet. Probably one that I didn't think I would ever give up was black pepper. I loved pepper on everything and have learned that that is an irritant, a common irritant. Vinegars and pickles that are made with vinegars, other types of irritating spices like cinnamon, cloves. Those are things to take out of your diet if you're trying to help your digestion be more efficient. One other point that I wanted to mention, and that is how important it is to undergo a very low-fat diet as you're losing weight. We do need fats in our diet. Healthful fats are especially beneficial for us for nice skin and hair and cardiac health.
What would you say are the best fats that a person could take when they're losing weight?
You know, the best fats are those fats that are still found in their whole state, that are plant-based fats.
Like nuts?
Yes.
And beans?
Yes.
And whole grains?
Yes.
Yes. Avocado? Can I have avocado?
Avocado, certainly.
What about olives? Can you have olives?
Olives, certainly.
Oh, yes,
and
all
of
of
course
these.
in moderation. But, and of the nuts, there are some nuts that tend to be more helpful than others. Almonds, pecans, and walnuts tend to be the best for the healthful fats that they have. They're lower in the saturated fats that we find in cashews and macadamia nuts, those types of things.
But they are so good.
Yes, they are.
Can I ever have any?
Oh, of course, in moderation.
In moderation.
On occasion.
How can you tell what a good portion size is when you're overweight? How would you suggest counseling a teenage girl who was quite hefty, and she eats lunch with you? This is a personal experience that I had. A patient ate lunch with me, and this was before the start of her weight control program. She filled a plate high with food, and I thought, that girl will never be able to eat that much food. It was just an enormous amount. She not only polished that all off, but she went back for a second plate, and it was as large as the first. I thought, that's true. I'm sure she hurt. She couldn't possibly do anything but hurt. And yet she was able to eat all of that and then took a dessert on top of all of that. So how do you tell what portion sizes are?
This is an excellent question because people who are overweight often are very out of touch with their hunger and fullness signals.
Hunger and fullness. We need to recognize that there are two things. One is hunger and one is satiety.
Yes.
We can be filled and still be hungry.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
One is appetite and the other is genuine hunger.
Yeah.
So when we know that we have this, we've had enough to eat, at that point we can know that we should stop eating. And so I need to have the power, the strength in myself to stop eating. But already I know, Rhonda, that I don't have that power in myself because I have tried not once, nor twice, nor 100, nor 200, but probably thousands of times I have said when I go to a meal, not going to overeat. And I did. How do you counsel people with that? Do you have any good way?
I do have one way that's been helpful for me personally.
Yes.
And it takes the courage to admit that you have a problem with a trusted friend.
Yes.
And that is to incorporate their help. Let them help be your judge, your guide. It may be that you ask them to come to meals with you or that you plan your meals with them, that they can help you, that you eat what they eat, or that they spend time with you in prayer. I had a friend who prayed with me every morning for a period of time when I was going through difficulty and helped me really fully surrender this principle of appetite. And I appreciate that, and you will too, as you have trusted friends that can help hold you accountable to your plan. And I will mention, too, on things like portion sizes, sometimes if you really have lost touch with what is healthful, you may have to measure some things. Watch to see what those who are slender are eating for their portion sizes. If you've eaten a lot in restaurants, you will have a distorted idea of what a normal portion size is on foods. The portion sizes there are greatly expanded.
What about eating in restaurants? Is that a good idea for the overweight person?
You know, I used to think that that would be fine because more restaurants these days have options that seem acceptable. But you really don't know what has been put into that food, how it has been prepared, and what might be there that would mess you up along the way. I would encourage those who are trying to lose weight to avoid restaurants as much as possible. There's many things that will tempt you when you're there, even if you go there with good intentions to eat something healthful. And you may find that the vegetables that are on the side are covered in margarine, or that, you know,
they may have some very highly spiced thing,
yes,
or a lot of vinegar in it,
yes,
and you take the serving, and then you realize that it's unhelpful, going to cause improper digestion.
Yeah, it's best to do your own food as much as possible.
Do your own food. Eat as much as you can at your own home.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're
These
welcome.
are wonderful tips, and I appreciate them. I subscribe to all of these myself, and I believe that, you will benefit from this as well. Now, not everybody who is dealing with weight is dealing with overweight. Some people are dealing with underweight, and I think that some of the young ladies that I have seen who have been underweight have been as distressed about their underweight as those who are overweight are distressed about theirs. And so I've asked Dr. Donald Miller, who is our colleague at UT Pines. Welcome, Dr. Miller.
Thank you.
And I can see very easily that you've probably never struggled with an appetite control, with a weight control problem on the overweight side.
Well, you know, struggling with appetite doesn't just deal with weight.
Yes.
I can overeat and become skinnier. You know, people deal with food different ways, and it depends on I don't know what it depends on, quite frankly, but I have always been thin. From my youngest years, I used to hate being thin. When I was in Boy Scouts, you know, when you're wearing your shorts, some boys would have their socks pulled up and they'd just stay up. Mine would just fall down around my ankles because I had no legs. Just bloop, drop down to the bottom. I hated being thin. I hated being thin for most of my life until I got to the point where most of the people my age started bulging out in different areas, and I stayed thin. And so I'm very happy with that. So if you are thin, look at it on the bright side. It's a whole lot healthier than being overweight. But even there, you can get too underweight, and you can look downright malnourished. I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I did, in fact, when I was in the Marine Corps, battle sometimes getting a little bit overweight because there you had to be very trim and very slim and fit into your uniform. And I found that one of the most important things, especially when you're young, is to be physically active. The more physically active you are now, the more benefit you're going to get when you're in later life. I'm almost 60 now, and when I was a young man, and I was very active, I became a runner. See, I like to call it a runner's physique. Not I'm skinny, I'm a runner. I was a marathon runner. I have kept that physique, and I'm very thankful for it. But if you sincerely want to gain weight, basically you do the same thing that Rhonda was talking about losing weight, is chewing your food well, is eating the right things. It's not eating more food, it's taking the food that you are eating and using it in a better way.
How about being regular in your meal times?
That's important for almost everything. If we're not regular in our meal times, we throw our bodies off. And see, if your body's not ready to receive food, your brain gets you all ready. See, we eat on schedule. We're in a thing called a circadian rhythm. And if you have not set up a schedule, then your body's not knowing when you're going to dump the food in there. And if you dump your food in off schedule, you don't have your salivary amylase, your pepsin, everything's not ready to be digesting food. It sort of just passes on through and passes on out, not completely digested. See, basically, when I teach this, I tell people your body can't use protein. It can use amino acids. You take in protein, your body breaks it down to amino acids, and then it builds proteins from that. It can't use carbohydrates. It breaks it down to simple sugars, and then it builds up what you need in your body. And so if you are not getting good, complete digestion, because first, well, basically, digestion does not begin in the mouth, as many people say. It begins in the mind. Pavlov proved that with his conditioned response type of thing. When the dog sees, smells, or hears, he starts salivating. It's a thing that sometimes, even before we're thinking about it, in the circadian rhythm, we start getting ready for meals while we're still asleep. And so when that 6 o'clock comes, when you eat your breakfast, or 7, whatever, you eat your breakfast on time, your body's now ready. But, and you once told me this, Dr. Thrash, if you have 15 minutes to eat 15 minutes worth of food.
15 minutes worth of food.
See, many times we don't have enough time. We sit there and we stuff it into our faces, and our body cannot use it that way. And this is the trick. If we have a tendency to be slim, it will make us slimmer. If we have a tendency to be corpulent, it will make us a little bit larger. And so we need to make sure that we break that food down in our bodies by giving us the advantage of eating at the right times, the right amounts. Eating too much food, for people who are thin, it will just sit there and send it on out without ever stopping by to build up those muscles.
So you would say that more important than the amount of food you eat to gain weight, you would say that efficient digestion and assimilation of that food is the more important.
Well, I like this little saying, and if you can write this down, you can see what I'm talking about. Write down on a piece of paper, don't eat fast. That's the key for gaining weight. Don't eat fast. Take your time, chew your food well. Matter of fact, you take a mouthful of food, you put the fork, spoon, or whatever it is down, and you sit on your hands if you have to, and chew that food. If you want to gain weight, you just put a comma between eat and fast. Don't eat, fast. And
Same words.
Same words, it's just that comma makes all the difference. And so I find for myself, when I want to gain weight, now I was down to 119 pounds a couple of years ago. Oh. High stress in my life.
Yes.
Got rid of this big stressor in my life and started exercising, and that's the key. Exercising, eating right. I'm on a 2-meal plan. I'm happy with the 2-meal plan. I feel good. And when I can, when I'm not in an airplane flying over places, I like to get into a good exercise program, build up my muscle mass. That has more weight. I feel a whole lot better. I look better, and I'm going to live longer.
Some people tell me, though, that if they are underweight, they certainly don't want to exercise because that's a weight loss program. No, it actually does build up your muscles. It increases your appetite. It makes the digestion more perfect so that you can assimilate and store the food that you do eat better. So hope these remarks have been helpful to you on both sides, overweight and underweight.